For most people in the United Kingdom, this is the only monarch they've ever known. I think she's been there since 1953. I mean, forever she's been there, right?
Yeah, Steve, I mean, it's a day of grave national mourning in the United Kingdom. It sort of feels to try and put it into perspective for those who didn't grow up with a monarch, who didn't grow up with Queen Elizabeth as their head of state. It's a combination of almost a family member passing away, somebody that you grew up with, you learned about in school. The portraits were up in my classrooms growing up, and also at the same time the physical embodiment of our Constitution. We have a constitutional monarchy system in the United Kingdom where it is not a ceremonial role to be the monarch. It is a very important advisory role that the monarch provides to the government, and a very important check and balance within our system to make sure that neither the legislative, parliament, or the executive in 10 Downing Street gets out of hand and gets too much power or does things that are not in the public interest. In such a way that the monarch deems wildly unnecessary, and we've seen that over several major issues over the great life of Her Majesty the Queen. And in addition to all of that, we also have to remember is that despite the problems that obviously she has faced within her family and people from outside of the family coming into the family, this is a very important family. To a lot of Britons. Most Britons still believe in this institution because of that very point. It is an institution. It is not about people and their faults and their flaws.
Right.
It is about the connection between the nation and God. And when the monarch is appointed and anointed, using the anointing oil, as we will see when King Charles goes through a coronation, that is the link between the nation and God in that moment, and the monarch is supposed to be the living embodiment of that connection.
Right. You know, for a lot of Americans, we're fascinated. It's a curiosity. You talk about growing up with no monarch. We don't have monarchs in the United States. But for me, it's the history that I do find fascinating. The fact that she's been there so very long before I was born. She was the Queen of England. And so even for me, there's a sense of a change in the world, if you will. Profound, certainly for the subject of the United Kingdom, but for observers of history who understand how long this royal family has been there and served the nation, once in charge and now in a different role, of course. But I think from a historical standpoint, she is a remarkable figure.
Yeah. It's a stunning change in history. It's a stunning moment, in terms of an epoch, an era, not just for the United Kingdom, but for the world. Remember, the Queen was not just the Queen of England, as I know a lot of people in America like to refer to her. She was also the monarch and the Queen and the head of state for many other places around the world. For our friends in Australia, for our friends in Canada, for our friends in smaller territories, British overseas territories, all around the world. Believe it or not, the old expression goes, the sun never sets on the British Empire. That is still technically the case. And so the reach was far beyond just what a lot of people come to think of a cute and ceremonial role. She was, in fact, Her Majesty the Queen, and hopefully her successor, King Charles, will still remain as this kind of embodiment of the nation and the nation's interest. And of course, the idea of monarchies seems very antiquated to a lot of people. You underwent a revolution to get rid of that idea. But for a lot of places in the world, that is still de rigueur. And for a lot of places in the world, the British monarchy is still de rigueur and something that is to be respected and venerated.